Yonder Radio, Rural Conversations with National Reach. Hello, I am your host, Jared Iwi, and today is just stacked. Are you kidding me? We're bringing in a big-time star who broke the glass ceiling, so to speak, at American Idol, the first bluegrass performer in Landon Hughes. We're going to talk to him, what fame has done for him, and what his music perhaps could do for the nation once it gets a taste from American Idol. So we have that coming up. We have trivia, and we're all over. We're going to the Ozarks, we're going to Minnesota, we're going to Colorado, and we're taking you with us. But now, we got to get to business. Bringing us news headlines, the Daily Yonder News editor, Jan Patolsky, kicking things off with, well, DACA is back in the news. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. What is this, sir?
Hi, Jared. Yes, Up North News reports on a bipartisan law that was just passed in Wisconsin and signed by the Governor Tony Evers in April. And it removes barriers for more than 5,000 DACA recipients in the state, allowing them to work in high-need fields, fields such as nursing, teaching, plumbing, and other licensed trades. According to the Center for American Progress, Wisconsin would lose over $420 million in GDP annually without those DACA workers.
And I don't know if it matters to the story, but my dad would say all children need to be put to work, even if it's Christmas Day in 1987 and really cold. From El Paso, Texas, more data center stories. This one big in many ways. What is happening here?
El Paso Matters reported on a proposed U.S. Army Fort Bliss data center that would consume 3 gigawatts of energy, which is more than El Paso's entire 460,000 customers base. Now, you might think this is not exactly a rural story. El Paso is not rural. Well, the whole area, the whole region becomes a giant database hotspot, making it so that the pressures on the state's grid and water resources are becoming slowly unattainable. That's one of the main worries. One of them, for example, being specialized transmission lines that could just rip through rural areas.
Well, we may need AI doctors because from KFF Health News, hundreds of doctors may not be able to do the work that they need to do. What's happening?
There is a waiver program run by the Department of Health and Human Services that allows foreign doctors who are completing their training in the U.S. to remain in the country while they're waiting for their visas. Now, the problem with that is if they don't get processed in time and they have to leave the country, now the potential employers are facing a fee of $100,000 associated with H-1B work visas. That's a fee that was implemented by the Trump administration. The trick here is that a lot of these doctors were headed to underserved areas, rural areas in many cases. And we know from other reporting that a lot of rural hospitals simply can't afford those massive fees if they have to put up the money.
And gives me just a chill with that common phrase, passing the cost on to the consumers, which could be a medical issue all on its own. Well, Jan Podolsky from the Daily Yonder Newsroom, thank you for the latest.
Thanks so much, Jared.
That was Jan Podolsky, news editor of the Daily Yonder. And now from Daily Yonder contributor Caitlin McConnell. She brings us news about the news in the Ozarks, the region in Missouri and northwest Arkansas, where Caitlin lives and reports in her column, The Ozarks Notebook. So here you are in the Ozarks, and you end up at the Ozark County Times. You have this awesome photo that kicks off the article, 3 generations of women that have revived and are running this newspaper. Tell us this story.
Yeah, so Gainesville, Missouri, which is where this newspaper is located, is the county seat of a very rural place down along the Arkansas line. And it's one of the areas I'm in a lot doing these stories. So this was not the first time I'd met some of these ladies, but I knew that they were celebrating their 10th anniversary of having bought the paper back into very independent local hands. And I thought that that was kind of a moment to look back because around here, there are a number of rural papers that are trying to go back to being fully locally owned or starting, transitioning to nonprofit and all sorts of different ideas as they try to figure out how to go forward in a world where newspapers and journalism is a little bit more difficult than it used to be.
You say in your article, according to the 2025 State of Local News report, almost 40% of all local U.S. newspapers have vanished since they started keeping track in 2005. So this story is bigger than the newspaper. This is about an entire industry.
Seeing rural newspapers evolution is a big change in rural communities, because you have the news aspect, which is really important, but you also have the culture building. And when you have rural newspapers disappearing or just not able to cover things like they once did because of staffing issues or whatever, it really compromises, in my opinion, the connection points you have with your neighbors and with your understanding of the world around you.
And I love the passion of the people running this newspaper. Tell me about some of the people in this newspaper.
The three ladies who are three generations who are involved with this paper, they're very lovely, very passionate about making sure this is part of their community. And that was one of the reasons that led the middle generation in this trio, her name's Noreen, to purchase the paper. She had worked there, so she was familiar with it, and they all have deep roots in that area. And in addition to them, they also have, a couple of other staff members as well, and some freelance support in terms of the day-to-day production. So they all have a lot of different hats and are a very close-knit team to get the paper out every week.
It's something that struck me too, is this comparison of the newspaper to a traditional bricks and mortar gathering place. There was a reader that told you in this story that the paper reminds him of a restaurant that he used to go to that's no longer there.
That's right. Yeah. I think that, when I heard that, it was more about the concept of it being a community forum, that you had this figurative place to connect with your neighbors. It might not be around a cafe table as it was in the past, but at least you still feel like you have that connection with people who are in your same neck of the woods. And I think that helps ground us and really just feel more connected to where we are.
The good news is, since we're talking about news, it works to use that. They're profitable.
That's right. They are in a unique situation that the community is still very invested in the paper as well. I mean, that paper's been there for decades. I think it was started back in the late 1800s. So you have the local relationships, and also you have an area that has limited internet access, which I would say is still, puts a higher emphasis on the paper. And the fact that the paper produces really good content. It's like, if they weren't telling the stories, there's literally no one else to do it. I mean, who else is embedded in the community? There are no other media outlets in that area. That's it.
The article, Ozarks Notebook, Reclaiming Local News. Thank you so much for joining us today, Caitlin.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Rural news is always on our minds, and Caitlin McConnell is on the beat, bringing good news from the Ozarks. We'll certainly hear from her again, and we look forward to it. Well, next up, we have this week's musician. He is the first bluegrass picker on American Idol, and he brought it. The show likes a person when they include them in their regular promos, and he got a lot of FaceTime from Hazard, Kentucky. We caught up with him in Cleveland. Here's Landon Hughes. How's a Kentucky guy faring in Cleveland right now?
Yeah, it's different. No, it's 100% different. Like, this is my second year up here. Climate is really the biggest issue for me, Here we'll get 2 feet and still have classes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lifestyle is completely different. Obviously, I have more stuff around me. My town, Perry County, my home county, is 13,000 people.
Yeah.
In the whole entire county. And I'm up here, and there's a couple 100,000 in Lake County where I live at. And, it's such a big change of coming from such a small community and then come up here and living in in a city.
You longing for Hazard's the whole reason we're talking right now, right? I mean,
yeah.
Tell me this story. Here you are, college soccer scholarship. You're moving away from the house, and then what happens to you? You're out on the pitch, and suddenly you get overcome with some Bill Monroe music?
Yeah. So I've been playing music way before I even played soccer growing up. I played classical piano growing up. That was like my stuff, and being able to do that kind of influenced me more than anything, even the music I'm playing now. I grew up playing in church a lot, so I played a piano and pipe organ in church. And singing in church and, singing out of the hymnal and doing that. And then trying to use that best of my ability to start writing. I've been writing music since I was young. But that classical and gospel music turned into rock music because I thought it was sweet. And I was like, this is pretty cool. I want to be cool. Picked up guitar in middle school. And then I've been fortunate enough to say I picked up 5 more instruments after that. About my probably last year of high school, I really started getting into bluegrass. I was like, I hated it growing up. I hated country music growing up. I thought I was too good for it. I'll be honest with you. I was a little snooty. I was a little real snooty about it. I tied a lot to being in Lexington, which, it's 2 hours from Hazard. It was different being up there for the 3 years of playing club and academy soccer up there, to where I was in the same state, but it felt like a different place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of made me feel I need to be home for a little bit and reconnect with home. I mean, there's so many songs written about Hazard. One I can think about is a 9-Pound Hammer. Says it's a long way to Harlan, it's a long way to Hazard.
Well, it's a long way to Harlan and a long way to Hazard just to get a little brew.
Yeah, when I got up here to Cleveland, I mean, it was just like within even like the second week of being up here, it's just everything was so different. It was very, very overwhelming. Playing music was real comforting. It's like everyone up here, there's no one up here that talks like me.
I was thinking that much of your time must be telling people where you're from.
Yeah, everyone thinks I'm from Texas or Alabama. And this is really what drew me to the music, really. Hearing people that talk like me and sound like me. All the bluegrass tunes, like even Little Maggie, which I played on Idol, is an old coal miner's tune. It's an ancient coal miner's tune. They tell the same stories that generations and generations have all seen the same, effects from.
Lay down your last gold dollar. Lay down your gold watch and chain. Little Maggie's gonna dance.
And it's something very, very deeply rooted, I think, in everyone from the mountains, especially in southeast Kentucky, where a lot of those songs come from. I put my guitar down, started focusing on soccer. It was my first ever college season, so I was, trying to get prepped for it, taking everything real seriously. And that was like my main focus was that. And I would love to say school, but that was not the truth.
You got a lot going on. It's hard to adjust.
Yeah, we had a training session out in Willoughby on a grass field, and I was walking, kind of like side shuffling, and then stepped into a hole and tore a ligament in my ankle. It was swollen. I was in a wheelchair for a couple days, on crutches, couldn't walk, couldn't play. I just remember being stuck in my room. So I thought one thing that I could do next to sit on my video games all day, which I think was that productive. It was cool, but that I picked up my guitar and started playing, and I went through, there's an album, J.D. Crowe and the New South, one of my favorite bluegrass bands of all time. Listened to that album and learned every album track off that, just listening to it. I literally started going on from the earliest recordings of bluegrass music, from Bill Monroe's early recording, moving on to the Stanley Brothers, stuff that I've heard my whole entire life. I really fell in love with music. It was the spark that I really needed. And then we have a thing up here called Jock and Roll at Lake Erie College. So we have one member from each sports team will go up and try to do like a talent show type thing.
This is getting cinematic in my head right now. Like you're about to step up there with a slight limp and the guitar.
Yeah, oh yeah. So I got up there and I did Tennessee Whiskey. I did the Chris Stapleton version of it and had a blast.
Well, I imagine a lot of people, they're like, that's the soccer kid and he's plucking like he's possessed. Like, did people know you had this? That you had this in you?
No, that was like majority. I'd say that was like majority. Even like my close friends' first time ever seeing me play. And then the next week, I saw an ad for an open mic at the Lyric Bistro in Fairport Harbor, Ohio. Started playing there every single week. And then I recorded a video. Actually, my girlfriend Elena recorded a video of me at the Lyric doing a Nose of the Grindstone by Tyler Childers. And I posted that on Instagram. So fast forward through the spring semester, I move out to Las Vegas with one of my friends that I go to school with. So we work for Nike, JM Soccer Academy, and we were playing semi-professional soccer.
Yeah, I'm picturing a musical montage right now with set to bluegrass. That's what I see. I see it in the movie.
Yeah, I'm at a Topgolf, and I get a random Instagram DM and comment from this lady named Ariel Panzer. She's like, hey, I'm a producer for American Idol. She's like, I really like your stuff. And it was on that video that I recorded at the Lyric for Nose of the Grindstone. It was on that video. She's like, I would love to have you on a call. So I went there and hit some golf balls. Topgolf out there had really good buffalo chicken dip. I'll never forget that. Tore up some buffalo chicken dip and then got back to the house, got up for work the next morning and did the whole camp. Had to leave work early, got on a call with Ariel. And then I went through the whole process online, sent some self-tapes in. And then by the time I got back from Vegas to Kentucky, I was working at Hazard Coffee Company, which is the coffee shop that I've been working at for a couple of years now when I'm home. And I got the call and like, hey, we'd love to have you on the show. We want to air you in Nashville. And then from there on, went down to Nashville in November, and now I'm here.
And to be selected, I mean, here you were kind of used as a way to promote the show. They're probably reaching out to whole new demographics with you. Yeah,
no, 100%. Being able to say I was the first ever person to go on there and actually play bluegrass is like something that really still brings tears to my eyes. It's something like I don't like to be very proud of myself very often, because I think being very proud of yourself leads to being comfortable, and being comfortable is being stagnant. I think this is one thing that I can, kind of sit back and look retrospectively and, be very, very proud about. I wanted to really go on there and do it, not just because it's the music I love to play, but for the people that I love and, the place that I love, which is home. For me to choose bluegrass is really speaking from my heart and speaking for the, the people that raised me and the place that raised me.
And I love this moment where you're playing Little Maggie.
Go away, go away, little Maggie. Go and do the best that you can. I'm gonna get.
And for me, the person that blows my mind is you got Lionel Richie and you in a room.
I'm the same way.
Like if I would have told you 2 years ago, like, hey, Landon, keep your head up. You and Lionel Richie are going to be sharing notes over your performance of Little Maggie. How mind-blowing was this?
No disrespect to Luke or Carey, great people, but dude, Lionel Richie, are we serious?
Yeah.
He's the man. And this is my favorite part of my whole entire audition. They cut it. I went on there and we were talking, and he said, "Man," he's like, "you have the personality to sell me a car." And I said, "Yeah, dude." I was like, "Probably." He's like, "I appreciate that." He's like, "Do you sell cars?" I said, "No, hell, I don't sell cars." He's like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "I'll sell you my car, though." You're Lionel Richie, dude. If you want my car, you can have it, for the right price. I was lucky enough to catch him at the right time after my audition to be able to talk to him all personally after. And they were all three just outstanding people.
And what doors have you opened now? Like what has this done for you on the other side of Idol that you see some opportunity?
Just connecting with people. Like that's been, I think, the biggest takeaway. And then the gigs, like the booking. The booking has been sweet, especially stuff like I'm doing right here talking to you. This has been awesome. I'm very appreciative of y'all having me on.
We appreciate you.
My goal in life is to, one, travel the world, experience as much stuff as I can. I like hearing people's stories. I like talking to people, figuring out their background, where they're from. But just being able to have that amount of reach with so many people and be able to hear so many, I'm finally getting to respond to everyone that's reached out to me after the couple weeks it's been, because my phone, I basically turned it off after Idol. And glad that, they're connecting with me and enjoying my stuff, and I'm enjoying their stuff just as much.
Well, and there's some kids out there picking up a guitar right now, going to try to make that noise you were making, and some of them just may stick with it.
That's really my end goal with music. The bluegrass heritage comes from hearing people play and picking it up. You get inspired by someone, and you're like, hey, that's pretty sweet. I want to do that. And if I can even be a fraction of an inspiration to someone to, create something different or be able to express themselves in a way they never would have done before, that's really what I want to do with my life.
Well said, Landon. Thank you so much for the time. Landon Hughes, breaking the glass ceiling on American Idol, the first bluegrass artist. And really, thank you, because you're gobbling up some airtime, some internet time that, like you say, is art, and a guy showing off something that's been around for a while but new to a lot of people, and we greatly appreciate it here.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for having me.
When you came to find the light, guide you through a cloudy day. When the stars ain't shining.
That was Landon Hughes, who brought Appalachian pride to the big stage on American Idol in season 24. We'll have more of his music later on in the episode, so stay tuned. And now, zooming out, it's time for the first clue for this week's trivia segment. The trivia answer is the most remote inhabited island in the world. It is located in the South Atlantic, halfway between South Africa and South America, 1,500 miles from its nearest inhabited neighbor. Okay, so we're going to have the answer at the end of the show. This is your first clue. Also, coming up, WTF. What does that stand for? Not what you think. Oh, and what do rural schools have to offer? A lot. And it's positive. That's on the way on Yonder Radio. Yonder Radio, Rural Conversations with National Reach. Hello, my name is Jared Iwi. I'm your host. And before I forget, Madeline and children, thank you for listening. And I bring you up not only to say hello, but because you were part of last week's trivia, it gives me an opportunity to mention this week's trivia. More clues coming up. But first, across the country, rural communities are getting ready for elections. All eyes might be on the biggest of those, the midterm federal elections. But in rural communities, elections matter no matter how small. In Minnesota, an organization called Engage Winona is encouraging people to run for local races through a new nonpartisan program called Run for Rural. We talked to Isabel McNally about Engage Winona, which just ran its second Run for Rural program at the end of April. Well, first of all, Isabel, I apologize because I don't know how I've never seen Winona, Minnesota. And maybe it's just photos on the internet, which could be fraudulent, but it looks gorgeous.
I'm happy to confirm that it is not fraudulent. It is gorgeous. We really think that we're quite a well-kept secret in Minnesota and the Midwest in general. Not always what you'd think about for dazzling beauty, but we've got it.
I'm sorry we're messing with your secret now by sharing it on Yonder Radio.
The secret is for everyone to know.
Isabel McNally, have this picturesque town. You are seeking civic engagement. So tell me about Engage Winona, which is the website, engagewinona.org. Tell me about your vision and your mission.
The mission with the vision is communities where we can all connect, contribute, and we all have something to share. The big why behind it is this idea of civic health, that it's the undergirding for all of our lives, both for us as individuals and us as communities. Schooling, who your neighbors are, how connected you feel, all those social determinants of health, everything flows into each other and nothing is disconnected.
Now, is this focused on office, getting people in office, or just civic engagement in general?
So civic engagement in general. We are really excited to be presenting Run for Rural, but that's just one of the many pathways. And so we kind of have a spectrum of programming to meet people where they're at.
Yeah, now if somebody approached me in the street and said, hey, Jared, you should run for office, I'd be like, what are you, nuts? And I think a lot of people don't see themselves, whether it's in office or just stepping up in civic life. What is the entree into that conversation where you welcome them and confirm that they do have the skills and the personality?
I think almost all of us have a really strong set of core values. But as people are like, oh, I'm just not that charming, I don't want to get yelled at the grocery store, all of those may be true. You have things to contribute because we all do. Let's take some time to dial in what is really important. How can you be of service? Is this the way? Is this not the way? Maybe you're just a guy who needs to be on the casserole crew, hitting everyone in your neighborhood who had a baby or broke their leg. But in rural communities, there's something called the leadership gap. In Winona County, according to a U of M sociologist, Ben Winchester, about 1 in 21 people is going to have to fill some sort of what he calls like a positional leadership gap. So that's stuff like who's going to run the township board? Who's going to be on the volunteer ENS? I really think that everyone does have a place where they can contribute whatever it is their gifts are.
The fact that they could go to your website and there is evidence of others engaging, and there's a phone number and an email, and there's people that are saying we can help, because it's not a massive chasm, but mentally it can be from where you are liking Instagram videos to where you'd like to be helping out the community more broadly.
Yeah, and there's, I think, a lot of depressing articles right now that are like, democracy's in a decline. And you're like, you can click on those till you're blue in the face. And what are we doing about it? And it doesn't seem like the democratic move would be to like check on your neighbor and maybe think about yourself as a person who could, oversee some nitty-gritty administrative tasks. But I really do think that's going to be what it takes.
Okay, so Run for Rural, it's a day and a half program.
Mm-hmm.
Take us through what that does to a person. How does it transform them? How does it get them ready for office?
A lot of it is kind of narrating that voice of why me, and why now. But it really asks you to sit down and clarify your values, because running on one specific gripe is one thing, but maybe the value behind that is I really care about sustaining these funds. I really care about fiscal responsibility, or I really care about maintaining the agricultural community. Why now? Why me? Why this community? And then the rest of it is a little bit more nitty-gritty, like how not to commit crimes, because there's, some very specific filing stuff. We've got a little section on that. You're going to practice your stump speech. And then we kind of get into that fundraising, everyone's least favorite part, but I think a fun part. And then closing with some of those next steps. How do you ask these kind of awkward asks? Who are going to be your fundraisers? Who are going to be your door knockers? How can you keep engaging the community around you? So this isn't a platform of you. This is a platform of us.
They always talk about politics being about priorities. And that's what I see, which you've inspired in me with your rhetoric, with your moving oratory, is that, you're boiling up on the inside with these priorities, and there is a release, and that is leading the community with shared priorities.
We sure do try, or at least a place to talk about what it might mean for you. I don't assume that everyone who does this is going to agree with me or with each other. I think one of the really neat things about a functional democracy is that we all get a chance to ask our community to join us. Right now in Minnesota, during the last election cycle, 70% of local elections were uncontested. That is not good. And I think it reflects a complete disengagement and people not seeing themselves as part of a greater whole. And this is a little bit of something that we're doing to try to move the needle to change that.
That was Isabel McNally with Engage Winona, which hopes to offer more Run for Rural programs in the future. If your community is curious about offering a similar program or you want to learn more, just go to engagewinona.org. And now we're headed back to Appalachia to hear another song from Landon Hughes, American Idol contestant and winner of our hearts. This is Coal Town.
Living in a coal town, searching for the views. Head down to the river, catch a few. Yes, I'm living in a coal town. Don't think I'll ever leave. Yes, I'm living in a coal town. I don't think I'll ever leave. Sit down on the front porch, sing along with me. It's been a while for this damn company. Now, yes, I'm living in a coal town. Don't think I'll ever leave. Yes, I'm living in a coal town. I don't think I'll ever leave. People say that I'm crazy. Heard they say I've lost my mind in Perry County coal. The company says it's good as gold.
That was Landon Hughes with Coal Town. We're talking about civic engagement this week, and Taylor Stuckert with Lead for America is all about solutions. He talks about working to activate local talent to help communities thrive. What is Lead for America?
Lead for America, we're a national nonprofit service organization who's dedicated to activating the local talent and building the leadership pipelines that communities need to realize their unique visions. So our vision is a nation where all communities have the talent and leadership capacity to do the work that they want to do.
Wait, so a town has an idea, and you're building the bridge from the people to that idea? You're providing that support?
So what we do is we build the place-based service opportunities and the training to support those ideas and those initiatives. So that might be focusing on strengthening educational outcomes in one community. It could be closing the digital divide in another community. The foundation is the individual at the local level who has that deep knowledge of place, that passion for the community that they're living in. And then we equip them with the essential skills they need to fill talent gaps and drive change in their communities.
I just saw the mayor of Little Rock. He's at the lectern and he's speaking passionately, and he's talking about people joining you. What's inspired him? What did you do to him, Taylor, that has given him these ideas?
We were in Little Rock for the American Connection Corps, which is our program that's focusing on digital connectivity. And one that has like a direct short-term need. Like we need people supporting communities on things like digital skilling, digital literacy. Now we have emergent technologies like AI. When local people step forward to lead on those things, the results are often more effective.
Yeah.
And the results can be compounding. You're right. You can build a deeper relationship to place through that. You can learn a new skill. You can get connected to new education and career opportunities. And with that, new economic mobility opportunities. So it really has this sort of a door that opens to a new universe of possibilities just by responding to that call for service and responding to a desire to serve the place that you live.
Now, if you're in a community, and let's say it is a broadband issue, and they'll be like, Taylor, we don't need thought leadership. We need an internet service provider. I mean, what happens there?
Yeah, so I mean, the American Connection Corps, which I'll call ACC, when it started in 2021, it very much was about broadband access, right? How do I get access to a high-speed internet connection? So a lot of our service members in those early years, they were doing a lot of the work on researching who the internet service providers are in this region. If there isn't anyone in this region, maybe I'll reach out and contact one. Maybe we'll come together as a community and build a public-private partnership to form one. And we saw amazing examples. We had a member in the early years of the program who was serving in rural Nebraska, and single-handedly brought together the public-private partnerships that were necessary to get 1,200 homes connected to a high-speed internet connection.
Yeah, not to get too cheesy inspirational here, but I did see a drop of water hitting a body of water and it rippling outward.
Yeah, we believe as an organization that every community has the talent and the capacity to do the important things that it needs to do.
Leadforamerica.org. I'm here with the CEO, Taylor Stuckert, and thank you so much for giving us the insight on what you do, and I appreciate the time.
This work has always been relevant, but arguably it's as relevant as it's ever been right now in this country. So thank you for bringing us on to share about it.
That was Taylor Stuckert with Lead for America. You can learn more at leadforamerica.org. Next up, we're paying a visit to a small town near Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado, Allens Park, Colorado, which is where my dear friend Edie DeWeese lives. And she has a story for us today about a unique local festival that's held each year. Now, I was waiting on her. Now she's waiting on me. Let's see if we could get her. Now, Edie, are you there?
Hey, Judge. Hi, my favorite boy.
Okay, well, she was waiting for me, and now, okay, we'll get back to her in just a second. That's Edie DeWeese, returning a Tupperware to a friend, right, Edie?
That was from last time you were here.
Okay. I sent you some pictures because I thought
cool.
You might be in bed.
I'm being interviewed right now.
Well, kind of. I got to be honest, I'm just happy to be here.
Just a second, I'm getting back inside. Go on, Judge.
Even pretending to be in Allens Park right now is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. My name is Edie DeWeese, and I am the de facto historian of Allens Park, Colorado, merely because my ancestors were too lazy to go anywhere else after they got here.
How long were your ancestors too lazy to go anywhere else?
So my family's been here since 1904. So I know stuff that nobody else knows, and it's power, man. It's power.
I want you to wield some of that power before we get to WTF. I'll explain that, but tell me some secrets.
Well, Allens Park has two secrets. First of all, it was named for a guy who was a curmudgeonly, cranky old dude that nobody liked, but we still named the place after him. Oh, and he died in the insane asylum. And the other thing about Allens Park is that it mostly was built on the idea of gold mining more than the reality of gold mining. The miners got a lot of money from investors, but probably not much from gold.
Okay, well, this is really interesting. If you don't know, Allens Park is very close to Boulder, Colorado, known for lots of tech innovations and startup companies. And some of this reminds me a little bit of that, Hello, investors. We didn't exactly find the gold you were looking for, but what about all these friends we've made along the way? Not to say there haven't been successes there.
And plus, they were from Omaha, and so this was their first trip to the mountains, and it had to be a pretty cool excuse just to get out of town and come out here and hang out.
Well, and recently people did that for WTF, Wild Turkey Festival is what that stands for. I don't know what you were thinking. How did that go?
The Wild Turkey Festival was a resounding success. Everybody had so much fun. They had a scavenger hunt sort of so everybody could get around and learn about all the different things. And they said that about 200 people picked up the little passports for those. So you figure each of those books was for a family probably. So there were more people. People came all the way from Denver with their turkey costumes to wear. And they had a turkey calling contest and just all sorts of fun things, turkey legs to eat. And I think that everybody is in agreement that it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and we're going to do it again. It's going to be the 12th of September, 2026.
Well, be inspired, curmudgeons. One day you could have a town named after you. Now, Edie, I know you also run the Allens Park Wind, the newspaper. We appreciate local journalism. Thank you.
The Allens Park Wind, yes, It was founded in 1974, and I have been working on it ever since. Sometimes I've been the editor, sometimes I've been president of the board. I've always been a contributing writer. And most of the time now I write history articles. And so the Wind is available in an online version at allensparkwind.com.
That was Edie DeWeese, de facto historian of Allens Park, Colorado, and publisher of the newspaper Allens Park Wind. It's time for our second trivia clue of the day. This island has just one village called Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, with a population of just 221 people. Okay, we're going to have more clues coming up. We're also going to talk about what rural education has going for it. That's all on the way on Yonder Radio. Yonder Radio, Rural Conversations with National Reach. Thank you for being here. I'm your host, Jared Iwi, sharing the stories we have coming up from Frankie Falagi. Love what she is doing across the Midwest. Also, the answer to our trivia that's on the way. And now, Melissa Sadorf, Executive Director of the National Rural Education Association and author of the book, The Resilient Rural Leader, Rising to the Challenges of Rural Education. Melissa, she was also the superintendent of Stanfield Elementary School District in Arizona, so she has dedicated her life to sharing and advocating for the diversity of rural America. I got to tell you, when I saw your title and I saw your book, immediately I wanted to go to the deficit questioning. I wanted to ask you about rural schools and trying to hire people and budget. What's wrong with that, Dr. Sadorf? What is wrong?
It's not that you're wrong, because those things certainly are problems. They're barriers and challenges that rural leaders are dealing with right now in our schools. But what's also a part of that equation is what's right. And that is that there are so many assets in our rural communities. There's a lot of really great things happening in rural education, and the perspective of what's not there tends to be what people default to. Part of what NREA and my work tries to do is change that perspective to there's a lot going on and they're great things. And then we have some challenges that we need to talk about too.
So I'm going to go through the advantages of rural schools that you sent me. And your first advantage is relationships that go deeper than a school year.
Yes. Let's talk about that, because I think that's probably one of the most foundational advantages that we have. In rural schools, teachers often have the same student over multiple years, or they deal with and work with the same family over multiple years as well. You have principals or superintendents that know every child's name and every family's story. And that's often across generations, because you tend to have people that stay within those rural communities generation after generation. That relationship shows up as an opportunity to create institutional trust. And trust drives everything. I mean, it drives attendance, it drives engagement, it drives staff retention.
It's no small ask to say, could you drop your kids off here for 8 hours?
Yeah.
And that retention, you get those teachers that go to a community where they feel they belong and they can see themselves putting roots in the ground and building a life there.
Absolutely. When kids feel known, they stay. And when they stay, they finish, right? And it's the same thing for the staff in the building as well. When they see that they're a part of a larger community conversation, they're more engaged and they're more likely to stay as well.
Well, and that speaks to the second advantage, agility that larger systems can't match.
In a rural district, there are fewer people that you have to get into a room to make conversations about change. We don't have to move a bureaucracy. We're pretty nimble. And that really does speed up innovation. It speeds up programming. It speeds up initiatives.
Okay, third advantage, cross-role collaboration and collective ownership. Now, this is starting to sound a little bureaucratic speak here. Does it have a soul?
Sure. So let me give you a personal example. As a superintendent, I did have a principal, but I did not have a business manager. I was the business manager, so I did all the budgeting. I ran all of the federal and state grants programs. I was the HR director, and I helped to manage some of the special programs that we had throughout the district. But in rural schools, everybody does more than their job title, right? Teachers can mentor across grade levels, or coaches can provide counseling relationships that are pretty significant in a building. So that distributive collective attention of kids, because you have so many different roles and the many hats syndrome that we talk about in rural leadership, means that net of support is present in a way that larger segmented systems really have to work to manufacture.
Fourth advantage, place-based identity and community investment. So these aren't just institutions. These things live and breathe and bleed.
Yeah, absolutely. The community hub, or the heart of the community, is how you'll often hear a rural school described. And in many towns, it truly is the center of civic life. I mean, Friday night lights are a thing. The school typically also is the largest employer in an area. And that embeddedness, that investment, and that pride in the school, the local school, really creates a level of investment and intergenerational pride that I think that urban systems really are spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to recreate for themselves, because it's not as structurally possible as it is in a rural community.
I have still yet to find a place warmer and more inviting and louder and more celebratory than a small gymnasium with a big hometown basketball night.
It's very special when you're able to get that hype and that energy. There's just a feeling that is really hard to recreate anywhere else.
And now for the coup de grace of this interview. How has all this culminated in some beneficial advancements that have helped the entire country? What are we seeing from rural schools that other schools have adapted and taken on?
One of the things that really stands as a model for urban and suburban areas is that there's a joy in knowing the whole story of a community, of a school system, of a student and their family. That, being present for the full arc of a community's life as a school employee, and being trusted to nurture and care for something that really matters deeply to the people that live in that place. It's something that I have seen sustain rural leaders and educators in a way that is resilient and beautiful. And because it's such hard work, having those connections to the community that you're engaging with, I think, just makes it all the more rewarding to work in those kinds of systems. I really do believe that rural schools are leading with creativity and resolve.
Dr. Melissa Sadorf, if you go to her house for dinner, don't be griping about what's wrong. Let's talk about the good things and see how that can fix everything else. Is that correct?
That is correct. You nailed it.
Well, this has been an incredibly enlightening conversation, so I'm going to credit you to whatever I picked up along the way. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
That was Melissa Sadorf with the National Rural Education Association. And now we're off to a small town with big goals. We're going to Illinois with Frankie Falegi from Arts Midwest. Casey, Illinois is known for having large items. They build oversized everyday items. So like a rocking chair, they have that. They have an oversized ear of corn. So now you, the journalist, Frankie Falegi, what is the thing they don't have? I'm going to mention three things, and one of them is a lie.
All right, I'm ready.
Which is not the real super large thing in Casey, Illinois? Wooden shoes. B, swizzle stick. C, iPhone.
Oh, they don't have an iPhone.
Boom. That is correct. You know your oversized items in Casey, Illinois.
At least not yet. Who knows?
Well, that's true, because this guy there, tell me, I mean, he builds everything. And it's not, you might be thinking, 3 times the size. No, there looks to be a Chevy car key as big as a 2-story building.
Yes.
What is the story?
Jim Bolin is the man with the mission behind what's called Big Things Small Town. There are giant structures, and giant is kind of an understatement. Jim Bolin works at a manufacturing place in Casey, and he uses repurposed material from that place, like an old giant spring from a door, and he'll turn it into a mousetrap to be a permanent outdoor sculpture or structure in the town around downtown. So he's constantly working on these new giant big things, and he kind of just, I asked him his creative process, and he said, I see something, I do something.
That is an incredible life philosophy. And artsmidwest.org, if you search, I think, Casey large things, you will see these photos, and they're incredible. Like the mailbox. They have the world's largest and, might I add, functional mailbox.
You can go inside. Ship yourself off. Could have the next family reunion inside the world's largest mailbox in Casey, Illinois. A wedding? I just planned your wedding for you. I don't know. Whoever's listening, maybe if you're getting married, you can Venmo me or something.
Yeah, send your check to Frankie Feligy, courtesy of Arts Midwest. I get like a Hallmark movie vibe. There's a city official crediting this fabricator over at the shop for turning the town around.
So this all started 15 years ago. And the city's economic development director said basically before Big Things, our downtown was, quote, completely empty. The Big Things has grown hand in hand with visitors in town, with new businesses opening in town, and he says there's just been a complete revitalization of this city. He says now Casey is this tourist destination. People will be passing through or go to Casey, Illinois on a family vacation just to get a photo with these. It makes people who are there really excited to talk about their hometown. Casey residents are like, yeah, I know the guy who did this. He helps me take my trash out when I'm out of town. And it's really cool to have the local residents involved in promoting their own town.
So, Frankie, wait for it here. So, Casey, Illinois could be the next big thing.
Oh, it already is.
Just always like to throw out some wordplay, see how it works. I mean, the list of things: antlers, birdcage, bat, anvil, and horseshoe, bookworm, nail puzzle, cactus, crochet hook. That is impressive. Frankie Feligy of artsmidwest.org. Incredible story on Casey, Illinois, and all the oversized items. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun one.
Well, here's something to look forward to. We're going to hear more from Frankie Feligy in future episodes about other quirky stories that she's reporting on for Arts Midwest. And now, it's almost time for our trivia reveal. Before then, one final clue. This island is part of a British overseas territory, and it makes up part of an archipelago along with the Nightingale Islands and Inaccessible Island. The answer to this week's trivia? Drum roll! Tristan da Cunha Island. Did I say that right? Anybody know? Okay. With rugged volcanic terrain and harsh, unpredictable weather, Tristan isn't most people's idea of an island paradise, but it's been home for a small community of hardy homesteaders and fishermen for over 200 years. The United Kingdom annexed the island and established a garrison there in 1816. When the garrison was withdrawn a year later, a handful of people stayed behind and established a community based on a shared labor model. The primary industry is lobster fishing, with many islanders also working in environmental conservation and local government. The island is only accessible by boats, which carry supplies, fresh produce, and visitors from Cape Town, South Africa. The journey to Tristan is around 1,700 miles and takes 6 days, you lovebirds looking for honeymoons. You can find some incredible photographs and writing about Tristan da Cunha from Julia Gunther and Nick Schoenfeld at npr.org. Well, here we are on our own remote island, this hour of radio that we get to share with you, and we appreciate it. If you missed anything here, you can hear this show and all the others by simply going to yonderradio.com. Thank you for listening to Yonder Radio, a production of the Center for Rural Strategies, publisher of the Daily Yonder. I'm your host, Jared Iwi. The Living Tradition segment was produced by Nicole Musgrave. Thanks to Don Castle and the Tennessee Sheiks, Steph Gunno and the Lone Tones, Quincy Ponfair, Leo Pozell, and Tim Merima for the great music. Our editor and producer is Susanna Brown. This episode was also produced by Alana Newman with additional support from Anya Patron-Slepian and Julia Tilton. Our executive producer is Joel Cohen. The executive in charge of production is Adam Georgie. Yonder Radio, Rural Conversations with National Reach.